Καλησπέρα σε όλους, όλα τα άτομα που είναι σήμερα εδώ. This panel will be in English for obvious reasons. So, good afternoon to everybody and welcome again to the Digital World Summit in Athens. My name is Δημήτρης Ελαφρόπουλος. I'm a media researcher and a data editor, and I'm honored to moderate this panel with these two prominent figures. They are working at the nexus of technology, policy making, and international progress. So we have here in Athens. I will lend. Okay. When it's your turn. I'm in control. We have here with us Masango, who is the head of the United Nations Secretariat for the Internet Governance Forum, and Johan Harvard, who is the Global AI Advisory Lead at the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. Nice to meet you. Let's start with Mr. Masango. I will start with a very general but crucial question. Which are the main challenges that we are facing in the framework of global internet governance today, especially in the light of the rapid AI evolution?
Thank you very much for the question, and I would also like to first of all start by congratulating the organizers. It's a great meeting. Thank you. The main challenges that we do face is a challenge of, well, several challenges. There's first of all, there's a challenge of inclusion, that we have to make sure that today in internet governance, we include everybody that is affected by it. And this is what, for one thing at the IGF Secretariat, that we've been working towards, that it's not just one sector or one part of the globe, and it's not just one stakeholder group. It can't just be government-led. It can't just be private sector-led. It has to be led by all the sectors. Civil society as well has to have a say. They are affected by it. The people with disabilities have to have a say. They are affected by it. So that's one of the things that we have to look at when we're looking at internet governance as a whole. The other thing that we have to look at is that we also have to make sure that that it's not just a free-for-all, that there is some sort of framework that people can adhere to, and that it has to be a rights-based approach. It has to be a human-centered approach. Yeah.
Okay. Johan, what's the role of the Tony Blair Institute in promoting sustainable and responsible use of artificial intelligence?
So the Tony Blair Institute, we are operational in about 40 countries in the world. You may have seen our reports published in many places online, but most of what we do is actually that we advise and we support governments. So we are working closely with prime ministers and presidents and ministers in 40-something countries, and helping them basically deliver better policy, helping them really deliver impact for their citizens and improve the quality of life in their countries. As you might expect, one of the big areas where there's a huge potential, but also big challenges for governments to tackle is in technology in general and AI in particular. Yeah. It's a big topic, it holds a lot of promise, but it's also difficult. And it's not easy for every country to be leading in the AI revolution. And obviously as well, it's one thing to have research and so on, but to realize the potential value of AI in your society is really hard. And that's really at the focus of what we do. We help governments navigate the opportunities and help them zoom in on where the potential is. There's a lot of potential, but there's also risks and challenges. And those need to be taken seriously, and you need to really have mitigatory processes in place to make sure that the bad scenarios do not come to life, but rather that we can steer actively towards getting those positive, good scenarios come to fruition.
Can you share with us some cases that your team is involved in?
Sure. So we are doing many different things. So our work ranges from helping design nationwide AI strategies, to helping governments to think about how should we tackle this? Where are our white spots or weaknesses that we need to address? and how can we leverage our strengths as well. So we do a lot of work like that, but also help countries go into specific verticals, like, for instance, in AI for healthcare. How do we make sure it's not just launching an AI app, but really, how do we look through from end to end the entire healthcare system in a country and see how do we get transformative impact going there? So it might, for instance, examples can be around adjusting regulation on data sharing across healthcare clinics, for instance, to make sure that you can get better visibility of what's working well, what's not working well. For instance, it can also be inviting in relevant private sector players in different places to see how can we pilot things and test them so that they are safe and reliable, and if they are, scale them up. And there's many great examples going on from, for instance, in Latin America, and we're doing great stuff in Guatemala, for instance. We're working in across, I think, 20 countries in Africa almost. Great things going on in Kenya and Rwanda, in Ivory Coast, for instance. Southeast Asia as well. It's going on in Indonesia, Malaysia, and so on. So many great examples.
Thank you. You mentioned just before the digital inclusivity, this big issue. How can we really build a people-centered, inclusive, and development-oriented information society? Can we really harness the digital promise of artificial intelligence and tackle the possible threats?
I believe that, yes, we can. And part of the stuff, part of the things that we have to do is not just follow what the current leaders are doing at the present moment in time, but also build capacity for those people who may not be up to speed at the present moment in time. And when they do catch up, they've got a lot to contribute. You've seen there's great work, let me speak about Africa, there's great work going on in Kenya, in East Africa as well as in Southern Africa. You see a lot of things that are going on in there. And one of the things that we do at the IGF, this is one of them, we have over 176 national and regional initiatives for the IGF, and we also have a program for parliamentarians. So we attack it at the legislative stage and also multi-stakeholder, private sector, civil society, etc. And the other thing that we have to, when you do policies, in-country policies, it's not just you build it and people will come. Each country has got its own idiosyncrasies, if you want to say. So you have to be able to encourage, the elderly. You have to be able to encourage the disadvantaged people. In some areas, it's not just a matter of building a cafe, let's say an internet cafe, and then you'll find that only men will come there. You have to produce safe spaces, not just for women, but for children as well, etc. So it's quite complex, and you have to, in fact, attack it at many levels, not just one level. Yes, there's different layers, not just the national, the regional, but inside the country, and also the different strata of the society as well. Yes.
What about the digital and AI literacy?
Yes, digital literacy is also very, very important, especially with the youth. We have great youth programs, and we do encourage critical thinking. So it's not just a matter of access. You have to think critically on what you are looking at, or what the youth are looking at. Don't believe everything that you see on the internet. You have to verify your sources as well. It doesn't matter whether it comes from ChatGPT, AI, etc., or websites with news. No, you have to treat them all the same. You have to verify what you see by doing different sources. And also, again, with AI, and with anything, I mean, AI, people think that AI is actually a separate entity to other technologies, but actually it isn't as such. The same kind of difficulties do come in when you look at other technologies. The difference with AI, of course, is that it's rapid adoption, and the speed of which it is spreading. And as Johan said, that you have to be really, really careful. You have to test and you have to only release widely when it has been tested thoroughly, and that you have tried everything you can to minimize the harm that it can do to society.
Thank you. Well, there's a saying from the tech guys that sometimes we have to move fast to break things and fix things later. How does this apply on artificial intelligence matters?
Yes, we've heard that a lot. Well, I think we've all heard that a lot. And we've heard that, no, if we institute these safeguards, then we'll fall behind from the other players. But again, if you let something out, it's very, very difficult to bring it back in. When you're building your databases, you have to ensure that there aren't any inherited biases from other systems coming into that. There's no use finding 10 years later when you see the statistics that it's got a heavy bias towards one side. You can't really go back and redo the thing. So yes, it's impossible to be 100%. To eliminate all the harms, at the get-go, but we should do our best. We should have a framework. Again, as I said, we should do it from a human point of view, not from a profit point of view. Because once it's out the gate, it's very difficult to recall things.
Yeah, sorry
I
for
can
that.
shout as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, Anna? Yeah, thank you. Sometimes some things can be fixed. Well, what's your comment on that?
Yes, I would like to kind of nuance this comment, because there is value to moving fast and breaking things. Yes, please hear me out here. I would say I've spent the last 4 or 5 years in a big AI company building and delivering large-scale AI solutions to real-world customers. Not just talking about AI, but actually getting it delivered out there. Many projects fail. Many projects, many pilots do not end up working. Some do end up working, creating a lot of value. Some you need to shut down because they are too risky, and so on and so forth. But I would say the problem in Europe is that we are so afraid, we're so cautious that we're not experimenting enough. There needs to be more experimentation going on to find the golden nuggets, to find the stuff that works. And if we are too cautious to even try out many things, we will not find those golden nuggets. And that is very essential. When I was working in Europe, my customers, the big clients, they did super small pilots. Many of the pilots were too small to even verify if this will work. So subcritical scale of the pilots, compared to when we were doing projects in the US. Our clients were super excited to take risk, try things out on an early scale. If it didn't work, maybe they have spent $1 million and something fails. But if they win, if it works, they can gain $100 million. In Europe, the equivalent would be maybe 100,000 euros for the same pilot. So the US can experiment much, much faster and find what works. And I would argue that you can experiment in a responsible manner, managing the risks, and that is possible. Not all risks are the same. Some risks are crazy. You can't take those risks. Risk to human life, risk to really serious discrimination, risk to cognitive decline of our kids and so on. We need to be wary of the high-risk situations. But many risks we can cope with. They can be fine, and we can mitigate those risks. And it's really important to not run every project in the same kind of risk mitigation profile, because then even the low-risk projects will move very, very slowly. We cannot afford that.
Yeah, there is a cliché that the US innovates, China imitates, and Europe regulates. Do you think that EU over-regulates?
That's a very good question. I was actually, before I joined my last job, I was working for a government, and I was part of negotiating the European AI Act. So I've been deeply involved in the European AI Act. Yes, Europe regulates, but I would say there are strong arguments to regulate. There are risks involved with AI that are unacceptable. And of course, if we want to have safe products that we can use that don't discriminate different people for various reasons and so on, that is unacceptable. So I would say that the European regulations are not perfect, but they're not as bad as some make them out to be. They could be smoother, and I would say that many problems will not be in the regulation, but in the enforcement of the regulation. I tried to do some translation of the discussion from Greek to English previously, and I heard there were discussions on the regulatory bodies in Greece. Who will regulate and make sure that enforcing the AI Act in Greece? That's going to be a huge challenge, because these enforcement bodies, they're not used. How can they say if an algorithm is okay or not okay? And how will that enforcement look in Greece versus in Germany versus in France versus in other places? We can have a large variety of how this is being implemented, and that will make it hard for companies to work across Europe as well. So it's enforcement that is hard, and there needs to be super streamlined and harmonized to avoid that kind of conflict.
Yeah. This is also a power game between different stakeholders. I would like to ask you about, last week there was an event at Chatham House, and you discussed the US-China competition on AI. How do you foresee this competition shaping global AI governance, and what strategies can smaller countries like Greece adopt to navigate in this complex landscape?
That's a very difficult question. So we don't know what the future will look like, but we know obviously that the US and China will be big players in the AI space. Already now, if you look at global access to compute, US and China has more than 90% of the compute access in their countries. So we're lagging way behind. And even if we have 10 Pharos, 10 Daedalus supercomputers, 100 supercomputers of Daedalus scale in Greece, it's almost nothing still compared to what's going on. We saw 2 weeks ago in the Gulf, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, setting up enormous data centers. So it's going to be very hard to catch up. So what can we do in Europe, for instance? We can do a lot. And I would say that either we want it or not, the future will happen. And if you want the future to look a certain way, you need to engage in shaping the future as well. We need to show up to the game. So Europe needs to be part of the game and really do its best to be part of shaping what the future of AI looks like. Regulation is part of that, but it's also around building the solutions that we want to see. So Greece, I would say, is putting up a great start now with the National AI Blueprint, with Pharos, the AI Factory, and so on, and maybe, hopefully, a Gigafactory coming as well. But I would say Greece also needs to work more on not just the infrastructure and the supercomputers, but also building the AI applications. Maybe not just the models. The model is one thing. It's like an engine in a car, but you need the car around it. And there will be many different cars needed for different applications in that sense. So for companies in Greece, for doctors in Greece, for all these different things need special applications. So Greece can engage in those domains.
Yeah, to build the car as a whole. Some people support the idea that AI should be treated as a global good. What does the internet governance models? How can internet governance models can be involved into that? Can we really build multi-stakeholders models? I mean, how can we combine citizens, governance, big tech companies? Can we bring these people to the same table? There is a conflict of interest sometimes.
Well, yes, and we are doing that at this present moment in time, that we are bringing multi-stakeholders, not just in the IGF, but as a product of the GDC, there's the AI board as well that's coming out, and it's been in the news lately, and they are building a multi-stakeholder model for AI governance. And I use the word governance loosely. It's not just, we're not talking about just legislation. We're talking about frameworks, we're talking about ethics, etc. Guidelines, for instance. I mean, it can be the whole range. But first of all, I just wanted to just say something on your previous question, in that, yes, I do totally agree with all of you that it depends on the application, and it depends on what you're doing with that AI, how rigorous the testing should be. Secondly, I've been hearing from you that you're all of you are talking about, three different models. You're talking about the US model, you're talking about the European model, you're talking about the Chinese model as well. With AI, as has been with, the internet as well, it's basically a borderless system. So if DeepSeek gets released, it's not just confined to China. Everybody's got access to it, Same as, Mistral here, et cetera, ChatGPT and et cetera in the US. So the way forward is not to have separate not for us to work, and we use this word quite often in the IGF, not to work in our own silos, but to agree to have a common understanding and to have common guidelines for all of this. So then we'll stop looking at the other side and say, okay, no, they're doing this, so let's release these guardrails, and then there's, they're doing this now, So we have to work, it's one world. It's more or less, as far as technology is concerned, this type of technology is borderless as such. As soon as something is released, it's available everywhere. So that's the way we should do it. We should come together. And as I said, there's plenty of examples where governments, civil society, the technical community, because these are also, it runs over the internet, most of these things. So the technical standards people need to be there. The people, civil society, the people who are affected by it need to be there. They need to have a say on what happens to their data. The creators should be there as well. They need to have a say if it's okay for AI to use their data or use their creations or their creative style. And if not, how would it be okay? So we are at the infancy and we are rushing forward really fast, but we also need to carry these people along with us as well.
Let's speak about digital accessibility. For the time being, there are 2.6 billion people that remain offline. So is AI for the few? How can we bridge this digital gap, this digital divide?
AI is seen, on one hand, as a great enabler as well. You can get a lot done with AI that would take you even years, I'm not exaggerating, with AI. So it is a great enabler. It can get our the 2030 agenda and the development goals get us there faster. And what we don't want to see an AI divide as well. As I said, the IGF itself has got a policy network on AI, and there's a whole, OECD has also got some great work on AI as well. And again, ideas are not just coming from the three major powers in AI, as we have spoken. There's a lot of ideas coming from other corners of the world. So we have to make sure that we bring people with us as well. But that doesn't mean that we should put unnecessary brakes on the people who are moving forward fast, no. But we have to make sure that the other people are also included. So that's one of the things that we really do work on, is inclusion.
You have been working along with the Global South. How can we balance innovation and ethical considerations in these countries?
I think the potential is great for that. The Global South has a lot of challenges in their countries. The schools are not doing what they should be doing. The healthcare systems are not strong enough, and so on. They need help. They need to scale up their abilities to deliver value to their citizens. And obviously, just raising the taxes to get more money to be able to give more services will not be possible. How can they be able to finance better healthcare in a very poor country? From my point of view, one of the key levers, one of the key approaches there is to leverage technology, to be able to achieve more with less. So yes, technology will cost a bit of money, but if you can achieve 10x more output with technology than you could have without it, then you might be able to provide more healthcare, even in the poor countries. So indeed, I think that we need to look at this as a potential very, very strong equalizer. Then obviously, there is a big risk that the value capture in terms of revenue will come in Western countries, because they have a great advantage, so they can build some of the best healthcare models, for instance, and so on. And then if poor countries want to leverage the best healthcare models, they will need to pay a fee. That's going to be very difficult to break loose of that. I mean, already today, if you want to use the best cloud services, you need to go to one of the US providers. So they are collecting money from that. So I think that's going to be quite hard to break loose from. However, though, on the application layer, so there needs to be many, many local applications built. And let's not forget as well that saving lives is very valuable, even if we need to pay a subscription fee to a US company. That can be acceptable if we're saving lives and improving the quality of lives across the country.
Can we really decentralize these cloud services from the states?
Yes, we can. I think it's possible, but it's hard. It's very hard. And the European Union has been funding European cloud providers for a decade now, giving them billions and billions and billions of euros. How big market share does the European cloud providers have? 3-4% perhaps? Something like that in Europe. Some places maybe 5%. And that's despite the fact and in some places, in France, for instance, you need to use a French cloud provider. So they're kind of forcing French customers to buy French cloud providers. But even then, companies want to use what is the best solution and the cheapest. And they have such a market lead, so it's very hard to catch up there.
Another big issue is the black boxing in artificial intelligence. Sometimes we don't really know what happens in the machine. There is an input, something happens, there is a process, and there is an output. So how can we really foster trust and security in AI systems? How can we promote transparency, explainability, all these big terms that all the regulation texts include?
Yes, that's actually a difficult question, especially with the black box approach, because I was reading the other day that nobody really knows how large language models work. But at the same time, people can explain how the radio works, but they don't really understand how the radio works as such. To foster trust is to foster trust by what it does, its outputs, and its effects. If, according to the situation, we have proper testing and a proper review process, I think that you can foster trust. But once trust is lost in a system, it is very, very difficult to get it back. So that's also another thing that those entities or organizations that are producing these systems as well have to look at and have to think, as they do it, how can they maintain the trust of the users?
Another question to the similar perspective for both of you. How can we really treat these AI systems that sometimes facilitate the spread of misinformation and hate speech? There are many cases on social media regarding that.
Yes, that's a very difficult topic, and obviously we're seeing many examples. You can fake your voice, you can fake your video, you can fake text. Everything can be faked, and obviously that's been possible before. There's been photoshopping for a long time. Obviously, you can write fake newspapers and so on, but now that has become easier and easier. And to be honest, there's been many efforts to try to build technical solutions towards that, to have verifiable information and so on, but it looks to be quite difficult. And I think that going forward in the future, the value of having trusted providers will increase. So you go to trusted providers, trusted news outlets and so on, to be able to have more verified information. And you cannot just trust what you find on Facebook or social media and so on. And for me, myself, I have kids as well, that have limited screen time, but they have some screen time. And obviously, they are trained early in school now to not trust what they see online. So they're getting that early on. And I think that's going to be really important as well. That's been the truth even before AI became very prevalent, that you cannot trust everything online. And it's even more true now. So we need to have that really early on with kids and so on, with everybody, that don't trust whatever you see out there.
Yes, exactly. We do really have to encourage critical thinking skills, especially for children. But again, it's not always the children that are the problem. It's people from my age, our ages as well. When they see things, they tend to believe them as well. The good thing about AI at the moment is that the producers of these models are fairly small at the moment. So taking the multi-stakeholder approach, I think we should the stakeholders should sit together. That's the producers, the companies, the governments, civil society, as well, the consumers, the people who are affected by it, and see how they can build in ways that you can have. I wouldn't say that you can't really have a stamp that says if you use, Gemini Video Velo, I think it's called, or something like that, to produce a video, then it should have some sort of a watermark saying that it is AI produced. I mean, it's coming up already. And then, yes, an indicator. And I think this can become a standard. Once you get the people to agree. And again, I'm not talking about imposing it from the top down. The government says, you should do this. No, we talk about it. And then we come to a solution which works for everybody. And then that will solve the really high quality ones, because the high quality ones, you really do need all those big server farms, etc. Those ones that you can have on your computer, I think the quality is rather low, and you really, unless you're a state actor, and then if you're a state actor, then of course more. But if you're an individual, then it's much more difficult.
Thank you. A final question for both of you, and then we will proceed with the audience. Looking ahead, in the next 5 to 10 years, what are the big concerns about the future and the social impact of AI?
If I start, I would say that one risk that we're not talking about enough is underutilization of AI as well. So not using AI might mean that we're not saving lives with technology when we could have done that. And public sector can get a lot of efficiencies and improve quality. For instance, we know that in Greece there's a lot of, all the taxpayer money is not used as it should always. That can be improved a lot if we use both old technology as well as AI technology. So there's a lot of potential to really leverage that. However, I also want to mention on the private sector side, it's obviously so that you have front-runner companies in every sector that are looking to gain competitive advantage. And they are investing heavily in AI. And that includes companies in the shipping industry, in metals industry, in manufacturing, in insurance, in banking, and everything. And the front runners they're investing in AI, and they're starting to get the benefits from that. The first pilots are not working, but sooner or later, they're getting pretty good value from it. And if you're lagging behind in your industry, you will lose market share, and you will not be able to sustain your competitiveness and so on. And imagine when that happens on a nation-state level. So if your sector, in this key sector in your country, for example, Greece, cannot keep up with the competition, then it's going to be an issue. So adoption in the private sector is really, really essential to maintain competitiveness in that sector. I mean, shipping, obviously, the Greek shipping industry is already starting to use AI. But what about the heavy process industries and so on? If you can reduce energy use in an iron ore factory by 3%, that's millions and millions and millions every year. And if your competitor does that and you don't do that, you will have a hard time.
I agree with you, but for balance, yes. So yes, we can use generative AI for a lot of things, and it's got a lot of benefits. But then there is a danger of over-reliance of this. And somebody in a meeting I was saying it can sometimes be called degenerative AI. I mean, because we are losing the capacity to think for ourselves, to compose reports for ourselves, etc. We do have, I mean, for instance, I can only remember, I mean, this is pre-AI, but the effects of technology. When I was a kid, I knew, my friends' phone numbers, I knew my own phone number. Now I only know my own phone number, So, and then we see this is going to be increasing and increasing and increasing. So we have to be really careful on that. We also have to be careful because these models, they're not even 90% accurate. They hallucinate quite a bit. And it's not the efficiency or the hallucination doesn't get better with time. I mean, the last model was actually hallucinating more than the previous model. So, you really have to be careful. And finally, these are all, not finally, my second last point is the greenhouse emissions, the electricity that it takes. So, I mean, we've been, I've also been listening into people talk and news that, they're going back to nuclear, they're building more and more and more because this is a very, very, there's, to be polite to ChatGPT costs, I don't know how many kilowatts each day just for saying please and thank you. And then this is also going to increase as our reliance increases on this kind of technology. And finally, what happens if there's a sunspot and, the computers go out for a day? What then will happen? Can we really now, in 10 years' time or in 5 years' time, will it be possible for us to fall back and start using calculators for the time it is required, to bring it up? I don't think so, as I said. It is very difficult. So just to balance it, I'm not saying, just to balance it. Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? Yes. Do we have any microphones for the audience? Oh, speak up. Speak up.
I'm okay with it. Thank you for being here. Allow me to say my question in Greek, and Mr. Elafropoulos can help me with that. Έχουμε παρατηρήσει επίσης αυτό που λέγαμε για πώς μπορούν να ακολουθήσουν κράτη τα οποία δεν έχουν τις κατάλληλες εγκαταστάσεις. Έχουν υπάρξει περίοδοι, βιομηχανική επανάσταση.
How some countries can really keep up but don't have the infrastructure to do so.
Είναι αυτό το φαινόμενο το οποίο πιστεύω ότι ήδη στη στιγμή συναρχίζει. Το acceleration που θα υπάρχει για όλα τα υπόλοιπα κράτη που έχουν infrastructure, σε σύγκριση με κράτη τα οποία δεν έχουν αυτές τις εγκαταστάσεις.
The gap is getting bigger and bigger.
Λειτουργούν παγκόσμιοι οργανισμοί για να καλύψουν αυτό το κενό ή αν είναι κάτι το οποίο δεν τους απασχολεί αυτή τη στιγμή γιατί δεν μπορούν να το αγγίξουν.
Are the big world organizations fighting to bridge this big gap between tech-savvy countries and countries that stay to a different level of tech and AI infrastructure?
Yes, no, I mean, that's a very, very big concern, especially within the UN, that we do not want, we already have the digital divide, we don't want the AI divide. In the global south as well, as I was saying, with electricity, you have to have that infrastructure. So, and some places in the world, I mean, what was the figure? 2.5 billion people. 2.6 billion people are not on the internet already. And why is that? Partly because of the infrastructure. You have to have electricity just to start off with. And if you see the globe at night, you can see the places where there isn't. So there's a lot of work to be done. And can that gap be filled in? Well, I don't know, but we shouldn't make it grow bigger. We should try and narrow that gap as far as possible. And maybe with the help of AI in 10 years' time, it'll give us a solution. Yeah. It's there, right?
I mean, there is a gap, not only in technology. I mean, inequality exists, is here. If we speak about energy, if we speak about resources, if we speak about literacy, if we speak in any different field, there are inequalities worldwide. So to follow up this question and come back to you, Johan, can AI accelerate this process of bridging the gap?
First of all, I'm going to touch on the notion that access to infrastructure and compute is what is holding various countries back. I think that is a false narrative. It's a true narrative in terms of course. If we talk about compute, if we focus on compute and data centers, yes, if you want to outcompete OpenAI, if you want to outcompete Google and Amazon, then you are in trouble, because then you will need $500 billion and get NVIDIA chips and so on and so forth. But that's not going to happen. It's going to be very hard for you to compete with OpenAI and so on. However, if you want to build a new application to sell coffee on the corner or an HR recruitment solution, you don't need a supercomputer for that. You can get free compute credits from all the big cloud providers to get you started. You can do that for free. You can do it on your spare time, on your evenings and weekends. The hardware and the infrastructure limitations is not what is holding you back from building AI solutions here and now. And there's so many opportunities. So yes, it's going to be hard to compete in the lower levels of the stack. In the stack, you have energy, you have servers and data centers and GPUs and so on. You have models. There, it's very hard to compete currently. However, though, then you need applications on top of that. And in the application layer, there can be a ton of value created. And you need to know the local market, the local customers, what they want, what they need, how you help them solve their problems. And the supercomputers is not what is holding you back from building those solutions to those customers. And I would say there's too much focus on those big computers. Sure, that's great if you want to build your own language model, but you don't need to build your own language model to build AI solutions for customers, for citizens, and so on.
Any other questions? Let's go here and then. Yes.
Yeah, it's a simple question. Well, the Internet Governance Forum, because it brought together stakeholders that in a level playing field, and they can talk about things. We've got a whole wide range of testimonials from people who talk about it, like building IXPs, internet exchange, local internet exchange points in East Africa, for instance, so that it lowered the price of connecting. And so the internet traffic didn't have to go through London, didn't have to go through the US to come to East Africa. So that's one of the things. Internet Governance Forum helped as a discussion board for ideas, not just in Global South, but for the IANA transition, for instance. It helped. It's a ready-made platform where people can come and to discuss ideas and get views from from multi-stakeholders, and that's why we're here. And
yeah, next. Very quick question. A quick question. One, please. Okay.
check it out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, there's, I think there are many. It's not just one. We all do our part. Again, I'm only speaking from an IGO point of view. You know, the organizations that support startups, etc. I mean, we have the ITU. I would even say the IGF with our youth track, etc. We have the OECD. We do also partner with the Commission, the European Commission. So there are plenty of these organizations. Maybe not one on a global scale, but we do pick certain areas to go and concentrate on.
Right. I interpreted the question as how do we promote knowledge on how to use AI to improve operational excellency across the world globally. So operational excellence meaning productivity, efficiency in organizations to make sure that we're not wasting money, wasting time, wasting resources in an organization. It can be a private sector, public sector. There's obviously many things going on in that space. For instance, sharing best practices, sharing information about use cases and so on, sharing open source code so that others can reproduce this code without having to rebuild or reinvent the wheel all the time and so on. And I think there needs to be more work of that. However, though, I would say that it's not enough just to be able to read about examples. From my experience, it has to be lived as well. So there needs to be practical experience on how you implement this, because you can have the best software in the world, but your people need to use it. And you need to change your processes in the organization, how you leverage this. So, I mean, when we got electricity, you started putting light bulbs in the old factories, right? But you got very little efficiency from just having light bulbs in an old factory. But then you realized that you can revolutionize in the entire manufacturing industry by having electrical engines. You don't need to be close to water with hydro energy. You can be close to the customers and so on. So you need to rebuild many organizations to really get the value from this technology. And that will take time. But I think that's really the secret, the key to unlocking that value.
Last question. Yeah? No? Wait for it. Go for it. Yes? No? Speak, it's okay.
We encourage people to speak. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, first of all. I won't take much of the time. I'd like to ask something that correlates with one of the final thoughts that both of you mentioned and this covered. And it's actually, I'd like to ask, as someone who's 24 years old, who uses AI for work, for master's degree, and for all the other things, kind of, searching, etc. Do you believe that in the future we will be able to say when it's enough to understand when AI manages to take so much control of the human aspect, the human knowledge, the human intelligence, no matter that much?
You speak also about consciousness and this stuff, right?
No, I think human intelligence will, I'm an optimist. So yes, I think human intelligence will always matter. We do have to have a serious look on how we're educating our children now, or even at university level, to make the best use of AI. There's a big disconnect now because we have AI that's come in and we're still teaching like we were teaching in the 80s. So there needs to be some sort of, there needs to be a change there. But yes, I'm an optimist. And as Johan was saying, there is a lot of benefit that can come from artificial intelligence, lowering those costs. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree to that. I think as well technology will fix some things, but we'll always find more new things to do for humans. We'll always aim higher and try to do more and more and more, improve the quality of life, improve our well-being and so on. So I think there's going to be a lot of work for humans to do for the future.
Thank you so much for this fruitful discussion. Thank you so much.